Paul Marley, when the hot sun outside there, his supporters, without mask. This is remarkable. So if they're not concerned about the welfare and health of the supporters, how can they love us? How can they love Dominica? They don't love Dominica, Mr. Speaker. They love themselves. Mr. Speaker, the member for Portsmouth said it well this morning. And this measure before this honorable House, Mr. Speaker, this bill, must not be seen in a vacuum. But it has to be seen, Mr. Speaker, from a broader perspective. This country, Mr. Speaker, is going through a revolution in the social landscape of this country. A revolution, Mr. Speaker, brought about because inspired, Mr. Speaker, by the leadership of this government, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Mr. Speaker. And of course, because of the philosophy of the Labour Party administration, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you go to housing, the once dispossessed, marginalized, and downtrodden now have access to first-class houses. I think about my supporters in Benoavin and in Yanda. $1 square foot. It was brought about as a result of the Labour Party and the intervention of their power rep, Mr. Speaker. Okay? Social revolution. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about the ordinary children now have access to university worldwide. And now, Mr. Speaker, we are talking about having access to health care, not because of your relationship with the economic forces, but because you are Dominican. And for us in the Labour Party, it is your right to have access to health care, Mr. Speaker. I am not going to go into details because you heard from me quite well, he said it this morning, about the multiple, I never heard that before, the multiple first-class health facilities throughout the country. I benefited from that in my constituency, health and wellness facility. And thanks to the minister before, our minister, the minister at the time, Mr. Honorable Daro, my good friend, and we now have access to a top-class facility in Maho. And that is so throughout the country, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, what does it mean, therefore, when we're talking about this authority, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, the hospital building, without, firstly, the staff component and the facility is nothing. It's simply a building with walls. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, it is important, because my understanding of this authority is not simply to be an authority by itself, but it's to ensure that the operations of the hospital is done properly. And you have proper monitoring, and also to ensure that you have requisite training to the staff who are going to man this facility. And Mr. Speaker, at one stage in our development, insofar as our health care is concerned, Dominica had the best primary health care system in the whole Caribbean, maybe in the whole world, a small island state. We are still there, but there was something lacking in our health care system. I heard Dr. King, I'm not a medical doctor by any means. I heard Dr. Daro, and I heard the minister introduce the bill. But, Mr. Speaker, at one stage in this country, and to an extent it's still evident throughout the country, from the primary...
Member, just an intervention. When you're referring to the members of the Honorable House, don't just say Dr. Daro or Dr. King. You need to address them by their title.
Mr. Speaker, let me give you a joke.
No, you can move on, you know, but I'm just pointing that out to you.
I invited a guy to my home once, and he has a PhD before his name. And my wife referred to him as Sir. He said to my wife, please don't call him Sir, call him Doctor. All right, Honorable Dr. Daro, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Dr. King, member for St. Joseph. I mean, because they work hard for that to earn that. So that's why I know they like to hear the word doctor, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. So, Mr. Speaker, in continuing, Mr. Speaker, so you had a situation whereby at the primary on secondary healthcare level, people were referred for specialized care, etc., etc. So the tertiary aspect of the healthcare system was always lacking. That's the reason why people have to be sent overseas to Guadeloupe, Martinique, even Barbados, for specialized care. So what we're seeing with this bill and with our new hospital is a graduation of our healthcare system, an evolution of our healthcare system from primary and secondary to tertiary, Mr. Speaker. So now, Mr. Speaker, there's understanding there. With this new facility, we'll have the requisite facilities or equipment, and then personnel, the human resource component, who are trained in specialized disciplines, Mr. Speaker, to take care of our people. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you have now a facility where you can have proper medical investigation and treatment, Mr. Speaker. And that is important, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that I'm happy and this matter is taking place. This measure is before the Honorable House. On the whole issue, Mr. Speaker, of giving too much authority to the minister. Mr. Speaker, you know, it is sad that an elected member would want to make this kind of statements. Because you're elected for a purpose. You're elected for a reason. So when you go out and campaign, you put forward to the people, the electorates, your platform. And then they give you a mandate. Okay, and that mandate can only be executed and led by the government. Do you understand what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, it's always a bad thing for ministers to have authority. You know, I don't understand that. It is the people who give us the authority and represent the interests of the people. But let me assure the Honorable House and the listening public, and you heard from the Prime Minister before, but there will be no secret hostile user fee imposed by the people of this country, as was done under the Workers' Party. That is the legacy of the Workers' Party, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, with this very short intervention, Mr. Speaker, I want to support this measure before this Honorable House, and to say in concluding, Mr. Speaker, and to say to the Dominican listening public, that there becomes a time when we have to put politics aside. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that the member for Salisbury made reference to the importance of vaccination. But, Mr. Speaker, I take this matter very seriously, you know that. And I believe it's an indictment on the Workers' Party leadership and the hypocrisy. Understand? And then the symbol is there for you to see. The evidence is there for you to see. Mr. Speaker, just look at the member for Marigot. Look at this, look at him, how he's properly masked. Okay? And then he has, I have to say it, and then he has people outside there, Mr. Speaker, demonstrating, Mr. Speaker, an illegal demonstration outside the precinct of this Honorable House. 90% of the crowd is not vaccinated, and the member for Marigot sits there fully vaccinated, Mr. Speaker. And I'm saying we have to put politics aside. And it is important, Mr. Speaker, it's important, Mr. Speaker, that everybody gets vaccinated. The vaccines are there. And all of us, all and sundry, have a role to play in ensuring that our people are fully protected and we can move forward, Mr. Speaker, in one common endeavor, Mr. Speaker. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Members, member for Salisbury, I'm on the floor. I just wanted to point out something. Here it is, the Honorable Minister for National Security is addressing this Honorable House, and someone mentioned off the record in terms of relevance. So he responded and said that it was because the member for Salisbury brought up the discussion. That is why every time I try to guide, when you open your flank and invite certain matters which are not in line with the debate, that's what happens. So I could not stop the Honorable Minister because he was responding to a particular intervention. No. Yes. So I just wanted to just point that out. So as we going through, we guiding this Honorable House. And that is why I keep asking that we stick to the debate on the substantive matter. So let's proceed. Oh, and before I move on, the Honorable Prime Minister is on an urgent matter, so he asked to be excused for a short while. He said that he will return a little later. But again, the Prime Minister actually asked to be excused. I just wanted to place that on the record. Let's continue. Yes, Honorable Sanford.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to the discussion on the Hospital Authorities Act before the House. But before I continue, Mr. Speaker, I must say that I was flabbergasted to listen to the Honorable Rayburn Blackmore rebut COVID-19 protocols because, Mr. Speaker,
I just pointed out, Honorable Minister of...
Honorable Minister
of...
The Minister for National Security. Mr. Speaker, the Minister said, the Minister was a police officer as far as I understand. He is also the Minister of National Security. But it was the same minister who allowed an international criminal to enter our shores without any PCR testing and without any quarantine, Mr. Speaker.
Please.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, no. That's a serious matter.
Senator, I'm asking you to withdraw this.
Yeah, that's a serious.
Withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, it is in the public domain.
Withdraw your statement.
No, I'm not. Do you want me to explain?
Members.
But ask the minister if it's an untruth. Well, let him answer.
Yeah, members.
The minister is right there. Ask him.
Members. Senator.
Ask him whether it's true or not.
Senator, I'm not going to tolerate this. If you are not going to withdraw, I'll ask you to take your seat. Period.
I withdraw.
You know better by now. So withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, can I continue, Mr. Speaker? I withdraw my statement.
Continue.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to commend the Honorable Minister of Health for his eloquence in the introduction of the bill.
Senator.
Yes?
I'm going to caution you to take focus on the legislation.
I was responding to a statement to him.
Your opening point is a direct attack with an allegation.
Yes.
So
I am responding to the minister before I get into my presentation.
I will not caution you again. If you continue in that line, I'll ask you to take your seat. Honestly. I mean, by now we know better.
Mr. Speaker, am I allowed to respond to any of the previous
Yes, if a member speaks on a particular matter, you can respond.
I wish to commend the Honorable Minister of Health for his eloquence on the introduction of the bill. I think that it's a very important bill for the healthcare sector on a whole, and the benefits that the healthcare workers and patients are going to get from this bill is tremendous. Mr. Speaker, unlike the Honorable Ian Douglas, I think, who lost his way somehow in his presentation, who focused quite a bit on the infrastructural domain of healthcare in Dominica as opposed to the actual Healthcare Authorities Act. I want to remind this House, Mr. Speaker, that it was the same Ronald Charles, the very same Ronald Charles who stood outside a few years ago of the dilapidated Princess Margaret Hospital and created a snowball effect of encouraging healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, wardens, cleaners to come out and stand and say, we deserve better. We want better healthcare for Dominicans. And so, Mr. Speaker, we all know that the government didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, let's build healthcare infrastructure for the people of Dominica. It required hard work, it required sacrifice, it required tenacity. And it was nurse leadership like Rosie Felix and many others who spent days in the streets with placards that forced this government to build these facilities. I am serious. And so I can even remember Dr. Mack passing by and giving us a thumbs up saying, yes, we deserve better healthcare in Dominica. And so I can say loudly today without any reservation that I'm very happy that the voices of these healthcare workers were heard. And so now we have to ensure that the patients that we love so much are satisfied and get the quality of care that they deserve within these newly constructed walls. Mr. Speaker, I must commend the persons who worked to craft this bill. I believe they did a great job. It is hard work putting a bill together. And I particularly, though, have a few concerns that I would like to touch on. Number one, Mr. Speaker, I noticed that the list of functions in the bill were laid out, and the functions of the healthcare authorities. Also, we look at the senior management, other staff and administration, and their roles and duties. But I did not see anywhere in the bill something referring to patients' rights. And I'm saying that because we know with the particular case that we've had in Dominica of the individual who is currently in police custody but is requiring specific rights. What do we have? Who is responsible for the functions in ensuring that patients' rights are heard? It's not outlined here in this bill, and I'm bringing it out particularly because of this case. It has raised awareness as to what are our patients' rights. And this should be critical right now, given the current events in Dominica. We should have at least something in there to focus on that. Mr. Speaker, also, we look at the functions in 5H to collaborate with educational institutions. Interestingly, I didn't see any mention of the medical health facility in Portsmouth, which was opened just before the election, 2019 elections. Interesting, isn't it? Also, Mr. Speaker, I noticed also in section 5D of the health bill, 5D, it says open, maintain and close accounts with banks outside Dominica with the approval of the minister responsible for finance. And I would like someone on the other side to explain this in the hospital authority. For me, as it relates to offshore banks. I have done a systematic review of hospital authority acts across the Caribbean, in all the Caribbean states, and nowhere have I seen that any of these countries have offshore banks in this bill. There's a particular funding as it relates to the healthcare authority having their own official funding banks, being able to loan and all of that. It states, and I read, open and maintain and close accounts with banks outside of Dominica. It did not state what kind of banks, and banks outside our shores are considered to be offshore banks. So please, let's be specific.
Senator.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker?
1 minute.
I'm speaking.
Members, please allow the senator to present. The Attorney General is on his feet. Senator Sanford, let me just hear what the Attorney General has to say.
Okay.
But all members of this honorable House, please cease from distracting the senator from presenting.
Thank
so at
you,
least
Mr.
I can hear what she's saying. Yes, Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, the member is making reference to offshore banks. Offshore banks have a specific legal meaning. Yeah. What she just indicated is totally different and is not an offshore bank. And in those circumstances, I would ask you, Mr. Speaker, to invite the member to withdraw that statement she made about the legislation providing for offshore banks to be used, and to say, if she wants to read what is in the legislation, if that's what she wants to do.
Yes, well, member, that's why I was asking the rest of the members to allow you to speak, because I was wondering, what exactly are you speaking about? So could you point out this honorable House, because you were asking for members to clarify. So I wanted to be clear as to which area you were talking about. So if there is no terminology offshore bank, I would ask you to withdraw it, because like you're not moving in the right direction.
Okay. So we're looking at section 5 verses 2.
Section 5.2.
Section 5.3 D.
There is offshore bank.
Well, that's why I'm asking for clarification, because it's not specified in the bill.
It, because it's sending the wrong connotation to the act itself, and just proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I was just seeking clarification. You know it's not specific, so it could have been referred to.
What exactly are you seeking clarification on? Just clarify.
My question is, why is it necessary to have banks being opened outside of Dominica? What is accounts outside of Dominica, in banks outside of Dominica? What would be the rationale for doing that?
With the greatest of respect, the question that the member is now postulating may well be one which is acceptable, but that is not what she said. What she said initially was that the draft or the proposed legislation provides for offshore banks. That's what she said.
So that's why I'm... So, okay, you're on your feet, so clarify exactly what you meant.
Good.
And let's proceed.
Okay, so I said I conducted a systematic review of healthcare authority acts across the Caribbean, and none of these other countries have accounts outside of Dominica to facilitate these bills. But in their bill, this is in this legislation. So in all of the bills, nowhere it's found. But in ours, it's particular. I'm just wondering why, and what would be the rationale for doing that. I'm asking a question. I'm allowed to ask questions, aren't I? Thank you very much.
Member, proceed via debate. Under the standing orders, a minister can respond to your question.
Thank you.
So just proceed via debate.
I'm also very happy that in the bill, they spoke about the the accounts of the authority, and it went on to speak on the auditing, which I find it's very good. Currently in our legislation, I think it's necessary because we do know, Mr. Speaker, that this bill, it's really written, but we would like it to be put into action. And I'm saying that because we all know in this House that we only received audit reports for the year 2017 this year. And so if this is being put into legislation, then we are supposed to do as we put it into words. So, Mr. Speaker, the government have to be serious when it puts things down on paper. And it's not only just making things sound good and look good, but being able to carry it out. So even for our constitution, in this house, which refers to the general budget, our auditor should be able to provide us with annual audit reports on time. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, also, we have recently seen, as it relates to the audits, that public officers find it difficult to release the reports to individuals. And I'm saying that as it relates to the office of the Kalinago Chief and Consul right now, where an audit was carried out and people, they're refusing to allow the individuals to.
But remember, we are on the bill, we are in the hospital. What?
I am coming to that. We are speaking of auditing and the importance of being transparent.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The Kalinago Chief cannot be mentioned in this bill. So it's irrelevant.
I am just drawing a reference as to audits that were carried out and it's been kept hidden from the public.
Mr. Speaker,
So if we, I am just merely saying.
the Senate sits, he said people who are preventing the report from reaching the other department. That is imputing improper motive. You cannot say that. You cannot accuse people in this parliament, young lady. You cannot do it without having the facts and information.
You've been here long enough. Mr.
You should know that. You should be here long enough. If you're not prepared and you're not ready for the debate, then sit down. If you're not ready to debate, sit down.
So yes, Honorable Minister, you have to refer to her as Senator.
Yeah, whatever.
Yes. No, you have to say Senator.
Mr. Speaker.
Senator. But Mr. Chairman, the Senator cannot come here day after day, week after week, every time we have a parliament debate. This senator comes and imputing improper motive from the start to the end. She just accused the Minister of National Security of allowing a criminal to enter the country. How can you say that? How can you say that there are people preventing the Kalinago terrorist from presenting the report? You cannot say that. It's wrong. And it's not parliamentary. And she has to learn that, Mr. Speaker. Please.
No, I agree with you. I'm asking the Senator to withdraw that statement also. And Senator, that's the last time I'm allowing you to get away. Because I cautioned you, and it's almost like you are hell-bent on imputing improper motive.
Mr. Speaker.
And he has cited, and I agree with him, 3 areas in which you are imputing improper motive. Proceed last time.
Mr. Speaker, I brought this discussion into all of this because if we're talking about accountability and transparency.
Senator, proceed. We don't
yes, I'm proceeding.
All I wanted to do is withdraw the statement and proceed.
Which statement do you want me to withdraw?
The statement in regards to the auditing and the Kalinago Chief.
Which one?
The exact one you said. You said it, not me to tell you exactly what you say. So if you want to continue to speak, you need to withdraw it. Or are you telling me that you don't know what you said?
I said maybe about 3 sentences regarding to the audit report, so I would like to know exactly which one.
Are you going to withdraw? The Minister of Lands already pointed it out, so you are very clear on it. I would ask you to withdraw if you want to proceed or take your seat.
Well, I don't understand. Honestly, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand exactly what, because we do know there's facts that the audit report has been released. It has been kept from me. I have a letter in my possession saying that I cannot see that audit report because it's confidential. I do have a letter.
So you have the letter with you?
I can get it on my phone if you want.
To support your argument?
Yes, yes.
I mean, come on.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Withdraw the statement.
I do have the letter, Mr. Speaker.
Withdraw the statement or take your seat.
I thought he wanted evidence. I thought you wanted evidence. You don't want evidence. I have the letter.
Are you going to withdraw or not?
What do you want me to withdraw? The Kalinago Chief word? Or that we should be accountable in all government offices. Which one exactly?
Member, in regards to the audit, people preventing the Kalinago chief from the audit, from submitting the audit.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, I can't withdraw because that's the truth. And if I have to sit, I will. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Linton.
Yes. I don't know that every like to commend Senator Sanford for her courage, her bravery in standing up against this unnecessary onslaught. From members of this House whose stock in trade in this honorable House is invitation of improper motives. They do it line after line after line in their presentations. The only difference is that they enjoy the protection of the Speaker. They enjoy the protection of the Speaker.
Again, no, Honorable Linton. Just objection. You are in this honorable House. No one is preventing you from standing on a point of order and objecting. No one. So the ministers stood up. One second.
What was the
Mr. Linton, I don't have to explain to you. Proceed with your debate. I'm just telling you.
Thank you.
If you have an issue, stand up, and you do have to, because this honorable House for many years.
Thank you very much.
I don't have to be teaching you what to do.
Did I ask you to teach me anything? Huh?
Did.
Mr. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I hope we are getting to a stage. I know it's been long in coming, but I hope we get into a stage in this honorable House where the members on the other side come to this Parliament confident in their achievements and not reliant on criticisms of the opposition side in Parliament for them to feel as though they have done something. The matter before us today at this hour is the Dominica Hospitals Authority Bill. That's what is before us. And for a few observations that the Honourable Member for Salisbury made this morning about protocols, I am really alarmed at the scale and the intensity of the response. What is that about? The Dominica Hospitals Authority Bill is about bringing structure and purpose and clarity to the management of hospital services in Dominica. It's a good thing. We are behind the 8 ball in terms of other countries in the region that have similar legislation. But better late than never. There was extensive consultation of this, and the Prime Minister this morning went through the list of persons on the National Health Commission who have made outstanding contributions to this. And we're at a stage now where the bill is before Parliament. Be happy, smile, enjoy the moment. You're picking non-issues to come after members of the opposition for you to feel good about a bill that you have brought to the House that you should be proud of. I mean, get real. So, a whole long hallelujah story about mask and who is vaccinated and who is not. Hello? The Prime Minister stood up this morning and he asked for a suspension of the standing orders in terms of seating arrangement of the House. We are still socially distanced in this honorable House, going back since last year when we started in the early days of COVID. Look at where Hector John is. Look at where I am. Look at where you are, the Prime Minister. We are still socially distanced in this House. And I do not recall, Mr. Speaker, any correspondence subsequent to the one where we were asked to come to Parliament with masks that said we should no longer wear masks to Parliament. Yet, I see the honourable member for Castle Bruce proudly wearing a mask, yeah. I see the member for Roseau Central with her mask. But I'm crucified for wearing my mask. I'm crucified for wearing my mask because as far as I'm concerned, this is about leadership example. This is about leadership example. And when I raised the question this morning to the Prime Minister, it was precisely about that, about leadership being everything, and about the importance of leadership example. Because the Prime Minister was in Venezuela. Venezuela is rated by Dominica health authorities as a high-risk COVID-19 country. And Dominica operates a protocol under the leadership of the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health. We operate a protocol for travelers entering Dominica, travelers who are fully vaccinated. The protocol as of the 18th of May says, and the Minister can correct me if I'm wrong when he rises to close the debate. A, fully vaccinated.
Member, I don't want to slow you down, but what is the relevance of all that?
I'm responding to all of the epithets and accusations and sarcasms that were hurled against us since the Honorable Hector John made some observations this morning. And the protocol is this, Mr. Speaker. Fully vaccinated travelers shall be transported to quarantine at a government-operated quarantine facility or a managed experience at a safe in nature certified property for a minimum of 2 days. Fully vaccinated travelers shall only utilize certified transportation. C, a PCR test will be administered to the fully vaccinated travelers on day 2 after arrival. 1, the traveler will await the results at a government-operated quarantine facility or safe in nature private property for up to 24 hours. 2, if PCR test is positive, traveler will be admitted to COVID isolation unit until released by an authorized health professional. Hospital fees will apply. User fees. Hospital user fees will apply. And 3, if PCR test is negative, traveler will be deemed medically cleared at the discretion of medical officials. That's the protocol that operates under the Prime Minister, the Minister of Health, the Cabinet of Ministers of the Commonwealth of Dominica. So it was a fair question, with the Prime Minister having visited Venezuela, to ask him whether he had complied with the entry protocols for fully vaccinated persons, which he claims he is. And when I was going through the protocol, the Prime Minister said, no, I didn't say that. So what exactly did he say? Was he in quarantine or was he not in quarantine is a legitimate question, and it has not been answered. Did he quarantine on return from Venezuela or did he not quarantine? That now becomes a very important question and consideration in the context of what we're discussing, because none of the individuals that were lauded to the skies this morning for their contribution to the development of the Dominica Hospitals Authority would agree that because you have this Dominica Hospitals Authority and you have the China Friendship Hospital and you will soon have the Margaret Hospital, then it is okay for leaders of this country to set the wrong example of distancing, masking, etc. in defense of COVID, in defense against COVID-19. Because it is the same hospital under the management of the Dominica Hospitals Authority that is going to be overrun should there, God forbid, be an outbreak. Let's get serious in this house. And this business about opposition criticizing, we have not criticized this bill. We have made observations about it. I attended the consultation of the National Health Commission. I listened carefully. I understood where the bill was going and what it wanted to do. I was aware that there were interest groups, like some of the unions that had concerns about the staffing under the new arrangements. As a result of those concerns raised, the matters have been addressed. So this bill that comes before the Parliament today represents an improvement. It represents an improvement on what was there before. I know the members of the National Health Commission reported to you that I said nothing, but I had nothing to say except to express the concern I had. I was the one who was at the consultation, you know. You were not there. Mr. Speaker, can I get some protection, please?
Yeah, you are protected.
Can you ask the honourable member for Vekas to shut up for a little while?
No, that's unparliamentary. You cannot say that.
It is? You can ask him to shut up?
No, you cannot say that.
You can ask him to keep quiet.
Something like that.
Yeah, you can ask him to keep quiet.
Yeah, so you are protected.
Yeah, so I want him to keep quiet, and I want him to refrain. I want him to refrain from speaking untruths about me to my face. I attend.
But you see, member, again, if you end up in a back and forth debate with another member, the member now can stand on his feet and end up in a debate with you.
I'm asking for protection, that's all I'm asking.
Well, so I told you are protected.
Because I was
you
at
are
the
protected, so proceed.
And I raised with the National Health Commission the concern I had referenced the powers given to the minister and whether or not you were moving towards privatization of the hospital services. That much I recall, but I will simply say that on this matter of the powers to the minister, it's not anything more than allowing, for example, in the case where you have a 12-member board, 9 voting, 3 non-voting, that rather than the minister by himself, in and of himself, appointing all the members of the board, what about providing for the minister to make an appointment from the legal fraternity on the recommendation of the Bar Association? What about allowing the minister to appoint somebody with medical competence to the board on the advice or on the nomination of the Dominica Association of Medical Practitioners? What about providing for the minister to make an appointment of persons with financial and accounting competence from the financial accounting body of Dominica based on a nomination from that particular body? These are the things we talk about, because the minister, we've had our share of laws, legislation in this country where it is all about the minister, where the minister has this huge burden of responsibility to be the be-all and end-all of everything. And I'm not sure how well that has worked. I'm saying you could democratize the process a little more, broaden out into the civil society area and involve some organizations in the selection of persons who will serve on these very important national institutions. Mr. Speaker, somebody said that I have not visited the Margaret Hospital. Mr. Speaker, I have visited the Margaret Hospital, and sometime tomorrow or later this week, I will post my pictures on my Facebook page. Yay! Because we sit in this honorable house, and I heard the former health minister, the honorable member for Biti-7 constituency, Dr. Kenneth Daru. I heard his comments. I only wish that the Honorable Kenneth Daru, Minister of Foreign Affairs, would have shared with you that I had been to his office at his invitation on a few occasions, talking about the Margaret Hospital, not in any rancorous, divisive way, but looking for the best solution. He had his medical team visit with us in Marigot. He had his medical team visit with us in Marigot. I was the first individual to point out that Dominica had enough money from its citizenship by investment program to build the hospital at Marigot, and therefore did not need to be waiting indefinitely on the $13.5 million that had been promised by Mexico. You remember that?
He was a frustrated minister of health at that time.
You remember that? Why now would anybody want to suggest that I don't want to see the Margaret Hospital? I am happy it is coming. Call it. You call it whatever you want. It is located in Marigot, and whatever name we give it, it has always been a facility in Marigot for the Northeast Health District. That's what it has always been, and I'm happy to see it continuing. And by the way, yes, the facility is a major improvement on what was there before. I commend the design and build work that has been done. I have a problem with the way in which we have gone about using the CBI funds to fund it, but that's a different conversation. I welcome the Marigot Hospital, or the Northeast Hospital, into the fold of hospital facilities in the Commonwealth of Dominica. It has been long in coming. We have been without it. We have been without a hospital since 2014, when under this administration it was shut down for termite infestation. And it took many years of advocacy, of reminding, of coming into this parliament and advocating for the construction to begin, for it to happen. And I'm proud today that it is happening. So yes, I'm happy. I'm happy. I am happy. Now, Mr. Speaker, our medical services, Dominica China Friendship Hospital, reality today is one of the persons receiving care under the authority of the Dominica China Friendship Hospital is a man born in India who took citizenship by investment in Antigua and who found himself here through some kind of circumstances on the 23rd or the 24th of May. And before I say what I want to say, I want to come back to the honorable member from my whole constituency, the Minister for National Security.
Yeah, but before you go to the Honorable Minister of National Security, no. I just want you to know that one, the matter the direction you go in, that matter will be sub judice, and two, what would be the relevance of bringing it on a bill? So you can proceed.
I only want to say that if the Minister of National Security, within this sphere of competence that he is entrusted with, to serve the nation with, if within that national security ministry sphere of competence, he doesn't know or understand the difference between extradition and deportation, I don't expect him to understand the COVID-19 protocols and the importance of leadership example in adhering to the COVID-19 protocols. I wanted to say that. And yeah, and I also wanted to say, Mr. Speaker, our healthcare services, they've gone international.
10 more minutes.
At one point,
10 more minutes,
so
member.
we have in the Dominica China Friendship Hospital right now, under police guard, we have somebody there under the care of the authorities who claims that he was tortured and brought here against his will.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker,
but member, again, what is the relevance?
I mean,
what's the relevance?
I came to talk about it. Yeah, we talked.
One, the matter is sub judice, and two, the standing order is very clear. We have something called, here how it reads, Dominica Hospital Authority Bill. So where all this is coming in. And that is why I circulated the issue of relevance.
At some point in time, we may get to the stage where, under the management of our hospital services, we will want to consider whether, when people who have had their rights violated, their basic human rights, they have been raped, they have been sexually abused, they have been tortured, and they arrive at the hospital, whether there is some sort of moral obligation on the hospital and the professionals who have done the examination and the treatment to have a law enforcement body that they refer to or report to that this crime or some crime against humanity of somebody has taken place.
But member, what does that have to do with the act and the debate?
It has much to do because it's a new dimension of responsibility for hospital management in Dominica. For many years, we have had this situation where people who have suffered, especially young children who have suffered from rape and incest and all of that, go to hospital facilities, are treated and are sent home as though nothing happened.
But why this again, you are imputing improper motive even on the hospital. No, because you are saying that people who are at the hospital are not doing the legal job. I mean, you're accusing people.
He said they take care of them physically, just take care of them, but they send home. And it's happening all the time.
Member, you are forcing the point to try to bring a matter in the debate, and that is why you are making all these errors. Listen to me. One, let me just rule on the matter. One, it is irrelevant to the debate. Two, you are imputing improper motive on the institution itself. So I'm asking you, you have about 7 more minutes. I'm guiding you, I'm telling you that what you are doing is wrong. It's out of the rules of the debate. Then, hold on again, then you brought in all discussion, personalizing on a particular member of the House. Anyway, I've guided you. You don't have to have to get angry. Just continue. I'm just pointing out. That's all I have to do. Do not bring me in the debate. As the speaker, I'm just guiding you and pointing out those matters. So don't get angry. Don't get angry. Just move on.
You sat there and listened.
No, just move on.
You sat there and you listened to the member for Maho savage me on masks and all sorts of things. And then the minute I make a little comment about him, you're coming out to say about we went personal.
What are you talking about? Just continue, member. Don't get me in the debate.
By the way, Mr. Speaker, by the way, before I continue, you did indicate this morning in this discussion to do with the question, the unanswered question 3 and 4 on the order paper from the last sitting of Parliament. You did indicate that in the break there would be some investigation and some review of the matter, and if it was found that my argument was right and in conformity with the standing orders, then arrangements will be made for me to get the question. What is the story in that?
I deal with the matter when I to the matter, but I have not forgotten. So focus on your debate and proceed and be guided on relevance,
so,
matters that are sub judice, and also imputing improper motive.
But was I wrong that you said after the break?
Yeah, we are still after the break, so proceed.
No, but after the break, there's a lunch break, Mr. Speaker.
Just proceed on your debate. This matter and your approach is coming almost like, I would say, almost like an envious anger. But I will deal with that.
Envious anger.
Yes, yes.
Envious anger?
Yes.
No. Envious anger about what?
I will explain if you want me to explain bilaterally. You understand? Everybody knows the history. You understand? But that's how it is coming out. I am trying my best over and over, taking patience. The honorable member for Salisbury is using unparliamentary language in the House. He is no, I'm talking about this morning, disruptive. I'm pointing out matters according to the rule. These two members, the Honorable Lennox Linton, leader of the opposition, and the former leader of opposition, who is supposed to have significant experience in this House, to guide the members on their other side, but they are showing envy of the Speaker chair and a grudgeful approach every time. So I'm not asking you to love me, but respect the chair. That is where I'm going to do the envious thing. So let's continue the debate. Please do not include me. Please.
Mr. Speaker, on the evidence.
Let's proceed.
On the evidence of your
let's proceed.
envy comment, I will only say that you need help.
But I'm smiling in the process. Let's continue.
You should try to get that help as soon as possible. All right? Thank you very much.
Yes, member. Honorable Minister of Health, I recognize you. You can proceed, you know. But let us keep smiling and debating. Let's keep smiling and debating.
All right, I'm going to give the speaker a vehicle and a driver. Official.
Honorable Minister of Health, let's proceed.
Okay. Honorable Speaker, I rise to just the conclusion of our debate, but let me just clarify a few things. Senator Sanford mentioned about banks, but what you have to recognize, and this morning I mentioned that earlier, is that we've reviewed all the other hospital authority bills in the region, and what we have here is a hybrid. We're a step above the others. So what this actually does, it gives some flexibility to the authority. So it's the part of about offshore banks. Yeah. Right. So basically, we've actually stepped up the authority bill. It's much better than what we have in the other jurisdictions in the Caribbean. So it's more flexible. So that's what this bill is seeking to address. Apart from this flexibility, she also mentioned about the patient's rights. Mr. Speaker, Part 4, we have 48 and 49 that deals with... You
cannot say she, you have to say the senator.
The senator mentioned about patient's rights. In Part 4, miscellaneous, 48, we have the rights of access to health records. That's pretty much clear there. In terms of 49, confidentiality of the patient, that is pretty much clear there. So that is not an issue, Mr. Speaker. As regards to in terms of the patient's rights as well, if you go to Part 1, section that is 20, it also talks very clearly about the clinical committee. So it's not like a patient doesn't have rights. A patient does have his rights, and there's a clinical committee that can review all sorts of standards and quality and risk management and patient's complaints as well. So the patient does have right in this bill in the sections that I've mentioned. So that is not an issue that we should worry too much about. But coming back to, also in connection with what the honorable member for Salisbury mentioned, he mentioned about the health center in Salisbury. But we have to appreciate the fact that the health center in Salisbury is a type 1 health center. At type 1 health center, we have a nurse. And Salisbury has been fortunate enough in the sense that whenever there's a clinic at that type 1 health center in Salisbury, we also send a community health aide to help that particular nurse. So it's not one nurse that will be at the clinic in Salisbury, but a community health nurse will help her. The type 3 health center for that health district is in St. Joseph, and we have 2 nurses there. So that's not just unique to the St. Joseph Health District, that is all over in all the other 6 health districts over the island. But in recognizing the little shortcomings that may be there internationally regarding nurses, I've explained that before in the House in terms of nursing migration, and we have been addressing this thing in an aggressive way. As a matter of fact, just recently, 9 out of our 9 students from the Dominica State College that sat the regional nursing exam, all of them passed. We had 100% pass at the Dominica State College. And 7 out of the 9 at the All Saints University who did the regional exam passed. So basic, and then 4 foreign trained passed the exam. So from a local point of view, 80% of our nurses passed the regional exam. And all of these, as the Prime Minister mentioned earlier, will be absorbed into the system. But let alone just the nurses, we also have to recognize earlier this year we trained almost 19 nursing assistants, and we also trained the community health aides. In May, we had 15 of them graduate. So all of these are meant to address the human resource shortcomings we have in our primary healthcare center. But I'm just mentioning that because it was brought up regarding Salisbury, so just to get a better clarity of things. But let alone this, we have 12 positions at the hospital for interns, and very soon we'll be employing a few more interns. So all this helps to handle the human resource part regarding our health system. Let alone that, we also have all the specialists. We also have our own gastroenterologists, our own ENT, our own oncology. These are things we continue to do in terms of having all our specialists and consultants. But Mr. Speaker, I'm just mentioning this human resource aspect for you to understand the bigger picture of healthcare in Dominica. Because this is in terms of the human resource. You already heard repeatedly this morning all the investments into infrastructure. Our 12 health centers, health and wellness centers, our Dominica China Friendship Hospital, our Marigot Hospital. So we have the human resource that we're dealing with, we have the infrastructure, but today we are here to do the legislation, which is the governance. So we have infrastructure, human resource, and governance, then we have a comprehensive healthcare system, and that's why we're here today delivering this. Now, also, the Prime Minister did mention earlier that his dream was to have had the Dominica China Friendship Hospital at Warner, which didn't come through because he wanted it as a wellness center. Well, his dream will come through. That's what we're going to do with the Marigot Hospital. We have an area that we're going to change in such that it will be a wellness center, so we will get that dream done through. But, Mr. Speaker, the bill here, you have to appreciate the fact that everyone was consulted in this bill. So when the member for Marigot says that he would have preferred if you had the legal fraternity nominate someone or the medical association nominate someone, that is exactly why we consulted the legal fraternity. That is exactly why we consulted the medical association. That is why we consulted all these different sectors and stakeholders. They had an opportunity to give all their input and to say whatever they wanted or what they didn't like in the bill. So that is the bill that comes from consulting all of these areas of society, whether it's from law, whether it's from the economical point of view, whether it's from the ICT point of view, the finance point of view, or whether it's from the administrative point of view. Everyone was consulted. That is why we have such a hybrid authority bill here today. And also the unions were consulted. So that is why most of the staff are pretty much pleased that obviously their benefits and their rights will not be lost and with this bill. But as regards to the fact that whether the minister has too much authority, Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, the minister is there to protect the public so that the board cannot go overboard, so to speak, and put things, so the minister is here to counteract those things. So the board cannot just do what it wants. The minister will put them in check and make sure that everything's done. That is why we are elected here, to represent the people. So the minister will be representing the people from any hardships that can come because of the board. So it's not a matter of too much power in the minister, it's a matter of that's a safety guard that the board cannot do what it wants. And yes, the person representing the people is there to keep the board in check. So if anything, that's a very good thing if you ask me, Mr. Speaker. In terms of, but you see the whole management coming from the hospital authority, we can actually see it coming already, Mr. Speaker. If you get to the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, you see it's the cleanliness, and you can see the optimism and the passion in which the staff is functioning there. The staff is pretty happy. They actually cannot wait for the authority to come into effect. So in terms of just the whole positive attitude and the little changes that were put in place, for instance, some time back we used to be outsourcing oxygen. By just adjusting the shift system, we no longer outsource oxygen. And obviously the future is to have our oxygen plant, so we have another oxygen plant that can even provide oxygen for all the primary healthcare systems, etc. So it's just a win-win situation if you ask me, Mr. Speaker. And the bill also makes it abundantly clear that this hospital is not being privatized. It remains a public hospital, and the public is the ones that will benefit. They are the ones we put first. The people will put first in this bill, and there'll be absolutely no discrimination regarding whether someone can pay fees or they can't pay fees. No, it's not a private hospital. It is definitely the people's hospital. It will remain a public hospital, and we must not lose track of that at all. And you have to see the improvements that's going on in the hospital, even while we are getting into this hospital authority. You know, recently we did open our cardiology department. And you know, recently we did have a temporary pacemaker. But as the Prime Minister mentioned earlier, I'm in contact with the University of Michigan, and we have a MY. We have the My Heart, Your Heart program, which in terms dealing with pacemakers, which we're going to collaborate with the University of Michigan, so we can get all of this done in Dominica. Let alone that part, on the 12th of next month, we'll be signing the MOU with the World Pediatric Program, where we have services given to children or less fortunate children from developing countries regarding surgical procedures that can be done in the island. And next month they'll be here. We'll have them look at our state-of-the-art theaters in our hospital. So most probably lots of these interventions won't be done elsewhere, but will be done at our state-of-the-art hospital, the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. And also with the Brenda Strafford Foundation, we will very soon be signing the MOU, so that we can have our Center of Excellence, our Eye Center of Excellence at our Dominica China Friendship Hospital as well. But Mr. Speaker, and there are so many things going on at the Dominica China Friendship Hospital and in the Ministry of Health. As a matter of fact, just Tuesday last week, on the 22nd, we had actually the first modified evisceration and orbital implantation done at our hospital. Mr. Speaker, that hasn't been done anywhere else in the region. And it was done here with our own local ophthalmologist, Dr. Lawrence, as well as with Dr. Huang, who is from the Zhongxing Ophthalmic Center, Sun Yat-sen University in China. And that procedure hasn't been done. As a matter of fact, not even in Canada they do this procedure. And this was done in Dominica at our Dominica China Friendship Hospital. So you have to give praise for those things. Let alone this, Mr. Speaker. Just this week, we completed the diabetic retinopathy artificial intelligence study. And that was done with Dr. Kemp from the London School of Hygiene. That is the first of the kind study to be done in the Caribbean, right here in Dominica. Nowhere else in the Caribbean that was done. So when you talk about healthcare and things going on, Mr. Speaker, we don't brag and we don't boast, but there's so many things going on. And it's just remarkable where we're taking it from where we used to be to where we are now. And we have to be proud of how we have done so far in healthcare. But let alone all of this, Mr. Speaker, in terms, there are other bills that we'll be bringing to Parliament later on, particularly the nursing bill, the pharmacy bill, the medical profession bill, and also the allied health bills. So these will be coming. So this will complement the hospital authority bill, whether it's the medical one, the nursing, the pharmacy. So we'll have all the legislation in place so that that is even going to augment our health services in the Nature Isle, which is good for us here, Mr. Speaker. But what really happens if all of these bills is really to bring across efficiency, accountability, and also transparency. So, and this is the hallmark of all of these legislation that we're putting together, that people can be accountable, we have more transparency and efficiency. Because at the end of it, what we want is to have the patients have a best patient experience, at the same time having the best patient outcome. It's not just the experience at the facilities, but the outcome must be the best. That's why we talk about the human resource, that's why we talk about the technology, and that's why we talk about all the different procedures that we're presently doing at our hospital. So, Mr. Speaker, but before I close, I would like to extend my deepest thanks to the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, Ms. Xavier. She did an excellent job in helping us prepare these bills. Together with the Attorney General's chambers. I think they did an excellent job, many hours of hard work. Apart from that, I would also want to extend my deepest thanks to the National Health Commission, Dr. Dorian Shillingford, His Excellency Eliud Williams, Mrs. Jennifer Astafan, Dr. Donald Peters, Mrs. Cherry Roll, Dr. Ruby Blah, Mrs. Cecilia Mate, and Joan Henry. We spent many hours together at the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, day and night, going through so many different aspects of the bill, and finally we're here today to pass our bill. And with the bill being passed, Mr. Speaker, hopefully today, what we're doing now is realizing the dreams of brighter days. That's what's happening there. We're realizing the dreams of brighter days, Mr. Speaker. From humble beginnings, here we are, and we're moving, and the sky's the limit. We can only get better and better, Mr. Speaker. But before I leave, I'm just going to ask the public to please go take your vaccine. The vaccine is yours. It's at the health centers. It belongs to you. Please, I'm asking the public to go and take your vaccine. Not many places in the world where the vaccine is available. It's free of cost. The government has made it available to you. So we really want the public to take part in the vaccination campaign. Go get your vaccines. That's just the way we're going to get back on our feet. That's the way we're going to have all our social activities back together. That's our economic activity as well. And it's very necessary that we participate in our vaccine program. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased that both sides of the House have supported this bill, and things can only get better after passing this bill. And we look forward to passing the other bills that I mentioned earlier. And that's just to say that healthcare can only get better and better in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This concludes the debate. It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Dominica Hospitals Authority Act 2021 be read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will be now read a second time.
Dominica Hospital Authority Act 2021.
Bill now is committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. entitled Dominica Hospital Authority Bill to the House. House resumes, and I have to report that the bill shortly entitled Dominica Hospital Authority Act passed the committee stage without amendment. The question is that the report of the committee on the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Dominica Hospitals Authority Act 2021 be read a third time and passed.
Seconded. It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Dominica Hospital Authorities Act be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Dominica Hospitals Authority Act 2021.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly. Now, on the matter we discussed this morning, that is in reference to the matter regarding the minutes of April 26, 2021, in which a member, specifically Honorable Linton, raised the issue that replies to questions 3 and 4 were not attached to the minutes. I would like to address the Honorable House on some points. Point 1. Any attachment which has inadvertently been left out of any minute, not necessarily this minute we're talking about, is deemed an administrative matter, and as such will be dealt with administratively out of the chambers. And that is what I said earlier this morning, but I'm going to explain. Number 2, research I have done this morning have shown that Dominica's parliament has a track record of being among the top leaders in timely response to members' questions to parliament. And that have been so for a long time. Number 3, having read the standing orders and listened to both sides of the House, I must point out that in the standing order, there is no mandatory time frame to respond to a question. Due in fact that, and in part, that some questions may require research, and therefore no member of this House can force any member as to respond how and when he feels like. Number 4. As I'm rehashing the events of this morning and coming to a conclusion, it would be remiss of me not to point out to this Honorable House that the member of Salisbury behavior this morning was unparliamentary, disruptive, and rude. I was very, very patient and easy on him. But that behavior will not be tolerated in future sittings and will not be tolerated from any member on any side of this Honorable House. Finally, in regards to our substantive matter, I'm minded to follow the line of argument brought by the Honorable Prime Minister. However, I would like to do some further research, because sometimes we might think we are totally correct and might find out later on that we are not correct. So I'm asking this Honorable House respectfully that I do further research on the matter. And if we think we erred in the decision of following what was recommended and the points by the Prime Minister, we will, before the next sitting, correct it through an administrative mechanism. Thank you.
But I just wanted to, Mr. Speaker, to our because that is a argument, to page 26 of the minutes and what actually transpired.
and which was circulated, and no amendments were requested of what is captured in the minutes. You see, no, he didn't ask for an amendment, no. So, and if you look at it, it says on page 26, the Honorable Speaker in his intervention asked the member whether he was proceeding with his other question. The Honorable Member for Maricopa Constituency Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Lennox Clinton, then rose and instead of answering the chair, took the opportunity to inquire of the chair if he could be allowed time to respond to an accusation. The Honorable Speaker in reply said no. The Honorable Speaker in conclusion asked that the House proceeds with its business. The Honorable Member for Maricopa Constituency and Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Lennox Clinton, in reply withdrew his other questions. No, but you see, but the point, Mr. Linton, is that, Honorable Member for Marigot. No, what I want. But you see, you can't come here and talk about. But when you mentioned the minutes, I'm drawing to your attention what the Parliament ratified this morning in your presence. These minutes were circulated. And anybody, the Senator, Honorable Marsner, pointed out an omission in the minutes, and that was taken due notice of. And that has been corrected. That's how the business is conducted. If something is in there that was not said, or something is in there that was left out, or something was left out, we all have a duty, individually and collectively, to draw it to the attention of the House, because that is our minutes. It is what we said or we didn't say. And the fact of the matter is, this was not refuted. The point, Mr. Speaker, is that we all came here with our written responses to this question. It's not a situation where we're refusing to answer the question. We all came, the Minister of National Security came with his response. I had my responses, I read my responses, as I always do, as we always do. And there are times, Mr. Speaker, we come here well prepared and the members withdraw the questions. They say they don't answer the questions. And so we must not try to create discord in the House unnecessarily. If we have a valid, serious point, let us look at it and let us look at the issues. And we must also take note of the counter arguments that are brought in respect to the points that we raised. But here in this minute, it is here where the questions were withdrawn. What is on YouTube? I know what's on YouTube, you know. I know what is here on what the Parliament approved this morning, indicating that these things transpired when we met. That's all I'm pointing out is the fact of this thing. So it's not. I don't want the public to have the impression that we refuse to answer the question. We refuse to answer the question. You withdrew the questions. And if you the questions to Blackmore, withdrew the questions. No, withdrew his other questions.
The question.
Yeah.
With due respect. The question to Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, the member for Maho, and the Minister for National Security was never called. Yes. The question that I withdrew was the one to you. I did not withdraw the one to Blackmore. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, when I withdrew the question, you asked it. But the question to the Honorable National Security Minister was not called. It was never called. Because there was no time. You took all the time to answer the questions, fine. There was no motion moved for an extension of time, and so there was no time for the question to the Honorable Member for Maho.
So
what that meant was the question has to be dealt with according to the rules per Standing Order 24-4. Simple as that.
And shouting not going to solve the problem, you know. Shouting and being bellicose not going to solve the problem. I'm talking about what is the fact, what are the facts in the minutes. You got a copy of the minutes like all of us, and you had an obligation to draw to the speaker, the clerk, or to draw to the public. No.
But he used the minutes this morning to try to justify his point.
You see, oh, hold on, please. No, please. It's, you know, you see, I'm trying to help. I am seeking to help the process. Now, if we bring an issue here to the Parliament, we must be prepared to solve the problem. We must be prepared to solve the problem and to get a conclusive position on the matter. All I'm doing here is to draw to the attention, your attention, Mr. Linton, Honorable Linton, what the records say. And I'm saying that in respect to the questions that you're talking about, when you refuse to ask the question, this is why I believe that even the minutes here left out certain aspects which transpired. The speaker did something which is unprecedented. And with great respect to the speaker, I do not believe that he had the authority in law to pose a question for a member, to any minister.
He had the authority.
He had no authority. He said that, and he said that, but he did that because he felt that the question, this public interest, the minister has his response, and you refuse to ask the question. So we come here and play games. Mr. Linton, I've been around for 21 years. I don't know to play games or to be childish with this thing. We're here to do serious business, and when we raise an issue here, it must not be for snippets on a talk show. It must be here to the furtherance of the people's business, Mr. Linton. And it's unfortunate that we come here every time and try to create an unnecessary rancor and so on. I mean,
what I'm asking for is an answer to a question. What rancor?
You withdrew the question. You withdrew it.
The question was never withdrawn. The question was never called.
Mr. Linton, Honorable Linton, the minutes. No.
The question to the member from Maho was never called.
Hold on.
It couldn't be because he withdrew it.
Hear that?
Rubbish.
Again.
Mr. Speaker.
But you see, hold on one sec. Honorable John. Again, Honorable Linton, if you do your research, making statements, for example, telling a member you are lying direct. These.
You don't have comments. They're lying. What else to say?
Okay, hear that. John,
I comment, Mr. Speaker. This morning, part of the discussion this morning, you made a point about even the Prime Minister raising the concern of the omission in the minutes. That is when Mr. Linton stood up and raised that concern about the question. I don't know why, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also stood up. He made mention about Daniel Luge. I am aware that Mr. Luge came in the House and he can question the clerk or whoever in the House, asking for the answers to this question after Parliament when we were here in April or whatever, the 26th of one of the months that went by. The Honorable Luge came to the House on a few occasions asking for the answer to his question. So that is where we are, Mr. Speaker. Section 24(4) is very clear on the standing orders. And you made mention about it.
So you're what I'm saying.
What is it? But you rule.
You're what I'm saying.
A while ago, Mr. Speaker, you said it's administrative. Mr. Luge followed the protocol and went to the House of Assembly. Mr. Linton also asked. We have not seen it. It didn't surface. 82 days, you made mention of 82 days. Mr. Linton asked a question.
Okay, I get your point.
Transparency, accountability,
let me just respond.
Truthfulness.
Let me just respond.
I rest my case.
I was clear, and I think the Honorable Prime Minister pointed it out clearly. We have the minutes. We went through the minutes. Any member could make amendments to the minute. If we are discussing the minute as a substantial matter, then I agree. That would be But we agreed that the minutes, as is, with one amendment by Senator Masley. So we have to accept the minutes as amended. Now, in furtherance of the improvement of the House, if we think, for example, we look at the YouTube document later down, and we see that we made an error, nothing is wrong in trying to correct it if we are genuine. But in your debate at the time, you actually said, no, you finish with this. But as I said, we are trying to get solution, and in keeping with transparency too, that's what you said. We will get a solution if we think it is wrong, but as we speak now, the decision is we go according to what we have adopted as the minutes and we proceed. And therefore, my intervention in regards to that have come to an end. So I hand back over to the floor to proceed with the debate.
We like that one envious you. You jalo the speaker. You jalo the speaker. You jalo Isaac. That's what happened there. The Miguel could write it. You jalo the man for that boy. Sparks. You jalo the man for his right. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned. Sign it aye. Thank you.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
In more than second that so sign it aye. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House stands adjourned. Sign it aye.